Okay, are you ready? Actually,
Yeah.
I'm gonna open because this makes a noise every time I open it. Can you hear it?
No,
Okay, it makes like a little squeak noise every time I open it.
can't even. Oh, now I can actually. I heard it.
Hello and welcome back to All Things Real Time. Good evening, Lorimbo. Happy Easter. How are you?
Terrible, especially on this Easter time. As everyone knows, I'm the second coming of Jesus Christ, so time of Easter is always
Yeah, it's
a
your
sad
busiest
one.
time of year. Yeah.
It's my busiest time of year, bro. You know how hard it is to reincarnate and then
Yeah.
like revive. It's hard, bro. Especially with this team, it's never reviving me in time. Can you believe it took 3 days to revive me last time I died? 3 days, bro. I'm reporting all of them.
This is not a good bit.
This is getting us.
It's basically heretical.
Well, unfortunately. Hey, I come from Italy, the most Catholic country in the world after Poland. So anything I say is by default the canon.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Like when you ask Japanese people about manga, they're right.
Yeah, exactly. The only opinion that matters is the ones from the population that the culture originates from. Nothing else.
So
Okay, So what are we here for tonight?
Well, today we're talking about the other thing that your word is canon on, and that is Zerospace. Owing to the Zerospace Manifesto, of course, the world's most eminent document since the Nicene Creed. Am I right?
It's the Magna
I like the
Carta.
theme. We should do more themed episodes. The Easter themed episode is doing them up for me. I like it.
It's the Magna Carta of Zerospace.
Yes.
Yeah. Like in 20 years, when Zerospace is the biggest RTS, is biggest sport in the world. Like the whole world, instead of doing war, they're doing Zerospace battle. People will remember
millions of Brazilian children becoming obese because they stopped playing football in the streets and started playing Zerospace instead.
Yes, this will become the foundational pillar of Zerospace. It's gonna be like it's like the
Constitution,
first Constitution. Yeah,
and
exactly.
there'll be like Supreme Court judges that are like trying to decide whether you're allowed to amend any of it or whether you have to take it as gospel truth.
Exactly. We really want to nerf Grell, but the document says here, it clearly says the Protectorate is the strongest race. So I'm sorry, don't make the rules. Okay.
So true. Okay, so which races are the strongest at the moment? Give us your 1, 2, 3.
Okay, it's complicated. Is the answer.
Okay,
as always. So in my opinion, because the problem is that I'm missing a piece. I'm currently not too sure on the Legion versus Protectorate matchup. That's the piece that I'm missing.
Yeah, you haven't played much of either of those two races, right? So
not this patch. I played quite a bit of Protectorate last patch and a bit of Legion, but this patch I have not. Also, they changed a bit, quite a bit of the way Legion's technology system work. So I'm also not used to it yet. Because now you need an extra building to get tier 3, which affects stuff like the mercenaries and like this was in the manifesto, by the way. The reason why this is literally a Lorimbo made thing, because in the manifesto I said, well, you have to be careful, guys, because Legion at the moment can get tier 3 much quicker than other races, mercenaries, and so every tier 3 mercenary has to be balanced around the fact that Legion can get it like 2 minutes before. You have to be careful with that, right? Because it might break balance. So I think they just wanted to... Yeah, now they can't. They just wanted to make it uniform, I'm assuming. So Zerospace. I think Protectorate is still the strongest race. I know that a lot of people thought that Grell was the strongest race last patch. Shout out to you, Thermal. Always scoping. In every game that he plays, he always picks the strongest race and he always scopes about it.
I mean, I'd say shots fired, but like he shot the first, right, with the Twitter pod.
Yeah, but the best part is that he thinks the same thing of me. So we are literally like, I love him. I love Mark. We think of each other as the guy who like picks every OP race and balance wines about it. It's great.
This is true.
Jokes aside, I think Protectorate is still the strongest race.
Okay, I just realized a lot of people haven't played the game, so you should also explain a bit about which race you're actually talking about. So Protectorate, to me, are really similar to... Oh, weird, actually. They maybe lean Zergy Terran in some ways. Protectorate have, like, lots of very weak units. No, I'm the wrong way around. Protectorate is very heavy Terran. And they have, like, big mechs and tanks and...
I will say Protectorate out of all of the races plays the most like Terran. It's also the closest one to StarCraft. Also pretty similar to Vanguard if you've played the Vanguard in Stormgate. Yes. The game plan is the same. You have some basic units that can kite quite effectively. In Zerospace, you have the Commando, which is a Marine or an Exo, whatever you want to call it. It's the standard guy with a jetpack. Yeah, guy that shoots with a gun. The gimmick this time is that the guy can, as a blink ability, which is actually a jetpack junk, but effectively speaking, it's a dash or a blink or a jump, whatever you want.
It's a bit slow. Like they go really dramatically quite.
Yeah,
slow
they have like an
down,
animation.
Nice.
Like it's not an instant blink, but for all intents and purposes, it works very similar to blink from my experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the same kind of gameplay, right? So like you can either go very aggressively, like with some leans, they have some advantages to aggression. Like in StarCraft, you would have the mules. In Zerospace, you would have stuff like the towers or just general upgrades being really powerful. And in Zerospace, in Stormgate, I meant obviously. In Zerospace, you have the Harvester healing, you have the recall mechanic, you have the veterans, these kind of things that like make your game snowball while you play aggressively. But as is the case with always with these races, they always have Plan B, which Plan B is I'm gonna tech up to some like higher tech. So in this case, we have it's interesting because compared to StarCraft, there's less of a divide between bio and mech. It's a bit more similar to Vanguard in that sense. So usually the general game plan is mass bio into later mech. So you get stuff like Atlases, you get stuff. Well, the Atlas is a different unit than the Stormgate Atlas, actually. But this plays a lot like Terran. Also has that death bowling feeling during late game. Like the units feel pretty strong once you assemble a good amount of them.
But high cost, right?
Decently high cost, yes, I will. Well, the bio is not that high cost. It's like standard bio.
Of course,
It's the same trope. It's like the most standard thing you can think of. In a sense, it's also it's both the hardest race and the beginner race. Beginner in the sense that the mechanics are the most standard.
They're the ones that people are very used to. Yeah.
So you have barracks that produce marines. You have bases that produce income. Like it's very.
You nearly said workers, but you don't mean that.
Yeah, no, I mean
because of how big macro works in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, the second race, the race you're going to say that is the second most strong is going to be Grell, which I think most people are going to say is like quite Zerg coded. There are a few things that you can point to as being like Zerg inspired. You have like many melee units, and especially like small, fast, kind of swarmy melee units. You have things like spreading areas of impact, which is like similar to creep, though in this case it's like grass, because all of them are like, I guess photosynthetic, right? They're like plant creatures.
Plant-based alien. There are plant-based aliens, but I really like Grell design, actually, unironically.
I don't dislike it, I think when you're trying to make a game where you have clear similarities to an existing kind of property, an existing IP, there's not that many unique directions to go, but I think they found one that's quite unique and quite cool. Producer Pad says something about green gravel, but we ignore that.
No, not grey goo, you're thinking
grey goo.
Yeah, not green gravel. Green gravel is the Typhoon meme. No, what I meant is, in the sense that they feel like Zerg, they feel like the best parts of Zerg, and in my opinion, I fixed a lot of the worst ones. So, like, what do I mean by that? Well, one of the problems that the Zerg race had has always been how important creep is. Your units on creep and your units outside of creep are incredibly different. So Zerg, by this property alone, is obviously encouraged to play somewhat defensive, right? or to spread their creep aggressively with stuff like queen walk or drops and stuff like that. Because of this, you're gonna have like a lot of frustration. First off, a lot of the power of your unit is tied in a chore mechanic. What is a chore mechanic? A chore mechanic is a mechanic that it's essentially like you have to do it over and over and over again during the course of a game. There is no thinking about it. You don't think about how you want to spread creep.
So let's say dropping mules as an alternative example.
Yeah, dropping mules, injecting, chrono boosting is also a chore mechanic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Even though chrono boosting, in my opinion, is the best chore mechanic. Because it's the one that has the most choices. Where you're like chrono boosting X or chrono boosting Y actually makes a difference and you think about it. It's still a chore, especially during late game where you just chrono boost everything. But at the start, I quite like how it works. I've said this before, I think chrono boost is a cool mechanic. And the way that Zerospace approaches this problem, the creep problem, is that it's still a chore, right? But first off, it's significantly easier compared to having queen, because you just have to move workers. The way the race works is that you have seedlings that spawn from your bases. These seedlings can be turned into any buildings. They are not like larvae. They don't become become units. Your units are produced exactly like a terrambull. So you get something called an incubator. That's a barracks and produces units. So the larva is only for building. This is quite interesting. I found it has a very elegant solution. Why? Because first off, it allows you to bank up larvae and then creep spread all at once. If you forget about it. So it's not as punishing as the previous creep, because the creep tumor, which is a flower thingy, is quite quick to make and decently easy. Also has a big area. The second thing that I really liked about it is the fact that this doesn't require a specific unit to be there. What do I mean by that? Is that very often your creep in StarCraft is one of the, especially in the early game, is one of the reasons why you have to move constantly queens around. Which then makes it hard to juggle with defense and stuff.
It means you need to make more queens. It's something I want to say actually is that like a lot of people that play non-Zerg race complain about the number of queens that get made, but I think the issue is actually that the queen is so heavy in terms of the responsibilities that it has in the game. It's like, why would I make any other unit? This is objectively the best. Where and that's why you end up with like 10 plus queens in a game. And you need one.
The other thing, you need one because the queen is the only unit that can inject, the only unit that can spread creep, and the only anti-air that you get in the start. And also, very often, your only defense, like straight up, even from ground. So the queen is so overworked that a lot of playing Zerg at a high level, well, not a lot, but like a decent amount of the early game at a high level, you're going to notice is made by queen movement. So if you compare me to Draenor, for example, you're going to see so much difference in which Draenor splits his queens, always on top of injecting, spreads his creep very like on point, or Serral and stuff, right?
And moves them in reaction to like opponent units.
Yeah, exactly. So by splitting this from a unit, by making it seedling based, you first off still have the limitation, right? I cannot like spread my creep at the start of the game from my base to your base by just spamming. Because these seedlings, just like larva, get produced once every 10 seconds, so there's like a cycle.
And you still need to wait for the creep to spread, the grass to spread from the flower to finish. So there's like a build time, then there's time for the creep to spread, and then you can place it optimally.
And the other thing that I found really interesting is that, in my opinion, they took the best part of creep while removing the worst. The best part of creep is the vision, and they remove the stats. So right now, creep in Zerospace, well, it's grass. Sorry, I had a hiccup. It's grass, really. Doesn't actually give your unit any bonus stats. It has two effects, both of them pretty minor. It slowly regenerates health on your unit, very slowly. It's barely noticeable. Like I think it's 4 per second, and units have like hundreds of health. And the other thing that it does is that slightly reduce the vision. It's 2 per second, not even 4 per second.
Producer Pad is fact checking us as we go.
Yeah. Will take 10 minutes to hell a ultra to full, for example, a river. And the other thing is slightly enemy vision.
Yeah. Also to say that it's kind of less impactful because you also have buildings that heal your units. So it's not like that's the only way that you have to heal. There's a
Yeah.
building that does it, so you
You also
won't
have
really
units
notice the
that heal.
regen. Yeah, yeah.
You also have units that heal. Like you like, it's not. It's the reason why I like it so much is because it feels like spreading creep has a very clear advantage. You get a lot of vision on the map. You can turn the flowers into defenses later on. They can be turned into cannons for a cost. Small cannons. They are not like that powerful.
Yep.
Without the like, I need to stay on creep or my units are just bad.
Yeah.
So that feels really good.
I will say one big difference is that you can't you can't leapfrog them. So like one tumor in StarCraft will infinitely reproduce tumors across the map, whereas that's not the case in Zerospace. It always has to come from a builder every time that you want to kind of spread your flowers out. Yeah.
I think that's actually better though, because it means that you don't have to like every time select the tumor to spread it and so on, which is actually I think, added even more to the chore.
Yeah,
I like
so you
this
have to
version.
look
really
and
like
find the previous round of tumors instead of just like spreading one. Yeah.
As for the units themselves, they are once again. I like Zerospace, but one of the points that, in my opinion, like is not. I don't care. I don't think it's important. But the Grell race is pretty inspired by StarCraft, and a lot of the designs are very similar to Zero. So you have the Skrelling, which is, it's a link.
Yeah.
It works like a link.
Yep.
You use it like a link for surrounds, for run-by, stuff
in the
like
early
that.
game unit. Yep.
In the early, like it's an early game unit that scales up with upgrades later on to become like IDPS, run-by material, and also tank fodder. You have like the Harbinger, which is very similar to a Ravager, for example. It's a tanky. It's between a Roach and a Ravager. It's a bit more tanky. It has a bile, like it's very similar design.
Lashes are very Hydra coded to me.
Yeah. Lashers are very similar to Hydras. They have their own spin. I like the movement speed. I like the invisibility for camouflage and stuff. Like all of these units have interesting ideas. They're not like straight up. Oh,
not
this
carbon
is a
copy. Yeah.
They're not carbon copies, but the inspiration is there, which I actually don't think it's a bad thing. Because I like those designs. I think those are cool units. Like the Link, the Ravagers, I think those are the best units of StarCraft for Zerg, I mean. Thank God we don't have the Broodlord. That's the war, like, or the Swarm.
Well, there's the Behemoth, which is pretty. I feel like I said that weird. Did I say that weird? The Behemoth, which is not a Broodlord, but it's similar.
Guardian.
It's big. Okay, yeah, more like a Guardian. It's big, slow. It's tanky, which I think is interesting. It's a bit different.
So we have like a Muta coded. We have something very similar to Mutas. We have something very similar to Ultralisk, and something somewhat similar to a Larker too. Those are more or less the thing. So it's a lot of the inspiration is from StarCraft, but I will say to me, this is the race that I felt the most fun with. It reminds me of StarCraft. I really like the run-by potential. I really like links. God, I love links in any game. They're just fun to play.
Yeah, definitely.
Like they're just a cool units. You can do some cool stuff. The surround feels nice, even though, as I said, surrounding is a bit particular in Zerospace because units don't actually get body blocked that well.
Yeah.
Compared to StarCraft, you cannot actually completely fully block something ever. There's always a bit of mineral walking. I wouldn't quite know how to explain it if you have never
when you see it, you get it, and it's basically just that the units are just very slippery. So like where before there's kind of a range on the spectrum, and I'll say the far range is Stormgate, where you can have like 2 units can pin one other unit against a wall, and it's like there's like more empty space than full space, but those 2 units can pin, especially like a unit like a Car or a Vulcan. Then you have like StarCraft, where units definitely can surround and can body block and like fix a unit in place. And then the far other side of that is Zerospace, where like you feel like a unit is completely surrounded, and they'll find like some gap and they'll just like slightly sneak through. You can really never quite catch.
It's very similar to Lynx versus Hellions, or to Slow Lynx versus Adepts. If you've ever tried those two, that's the most similar things. Both of those, especially the Slow Lynx versus Adepts, can feel very frustrating. But in this game, it doesn't feel as frustrating, I would say. Because of like, you don't really have stuff like Adepts or Hellions just kill your economy. But I need to make an point before we discuss Legion. I need to explain how economy works in this game because we
Well,
haven't
we
done
should do it at the end, maybe. We should do it after we cover the balance on that.
Okay. So
firstly, I want to say I got
Legion...
fact-checked by Lilypad. There is no plants in Grey Goo, but apparently everyone's favorite RTS, Pikmin, does have plant-based. So
is Pikmin an RTS?
Yeah, of course. And I know it is because when you were signing up for the beta for Stormgate, it said like which previous RTS games have you played, and Pikmin was on like the drop-down menu that you could say you'd played on.
You are
on the
kidding.
Stormgate.
This is true.
Yeah.
There is no way this is true.
Yeah.
Was it really on
We're
the
gonna
NDA?
have to play Pikmin, and no, not the NDA, but like to sign up for like beta key access. You know, to like get onto the mailing list.
Oh, I see.
And I mean that website is probably still out there. Maybe Lilypad can find it. Yeah, what I will say is, you and I are gonna have to play Pikmin, and I'm trying to get you to play Red Alert. I feel like we should try and play Red Alert.
I mean, like, and then I have to play Subcom. I have to play Brood or more. Like, there's so many.
No, no more Brood more. No, bro. You have to play Beyond All Reason.
Beyond All Reason. Brood War is one of the games of all time.
Okay, let me say about Legion, because I started saying that Protectorate was like Zerg Terran. And that's not true. It's the other way around. I was confusing Protectorate and Legion. Legion is like Zerg Terran to me. Legion has like loads of really cheap units, including some melee ones called Thralls. Am I right? Pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, everything is called a troll technically. There's the range troll and the melee troll.
Yeah.
But
the idea is that they're tier 1. They're very low cost, but you make many of them, and in that way, it's kind of a Zergy type thing.
Yeah, but they're ranged. They feel similar to Marines, but they're more swarmy.
Yeah,
like
and much
you produce you produce 2 per. So similar to Zergling.
Yep.
But you haven't talked about the most important thing about the race.
The most important thing about the race is they get 2 heroes.
3.
3?
Yeah.
3 heroes? Okay. Eventually they get 3. Most of the time I see them, they have 2.
No. In my games, they always have 3.
Okay.
Oh my god. HaRT showing his ignorance. No, jokes aside. The thing is, Legion has a gimmick, which is already a problem. I've said this. Mark my words, this will become a problem. It's already a problem. So the gimmick is the following. They have very little units. They have different units. At the moment, they have 2 different kinds of trolls, 3 heroes, the tower, the terror tank, and the dreadnought. They are like what? 6.
And the Emperor thing, no?
Emperor is not a unit. Oh, Rhino, sorry. Forgot about the Rhino. So they have 3 basic units, 3 heroes, and technically 2 final units. So they have 8 units in total. And as far as I understand, there won't be many more units or even none at all other than that. So the whole race is balanced around the fact that unlike the other races, you get to pick multiple heroes and you get to upgrade them during the course of the game. So this is, in my opinion, as I was talking about this today, it's a race that's both very simple to get in, and at the same time has a quite low skill floor. You get right into it.
Floor or ceiling?
No, I am low skill floor.
Okay.
The ceiling is debated still.
Okay.
We are still debating whether or not how high the skilling is, right? Because according to certain people, there is no ceiling. The race is unplayable at the top level. And according to other people, including me, I think that the race is just as playable as the top level, at least as lower.
I would argue that means that the ceiling is very low. If people are saying that it's not playable at the top level, right?
Yeah. But I say that the ceiling is high because it is playable, in my opinion. So we like there is a difference in opinions there. What I will say is that this feels the race that feels the most like playing a MOBA. Unironically, Fan, who's a very good Heroes of the Storm player, plays this race and is really good at it because a lot of the race is hero control. Is picking the right talents. Is in a sense, it's similar, quite similar to playing a MOBA. That's one of the things that, as I said, inspired me for Zerospace. I liked about Zerospace is the fact that it feels like a very cool mix between a MOBA and IRTS. And I really like that different factions are gonna have different MOBA levels. So you have stuff like Grell, which I think is the least reliant on the hero.
Yeah, you have one hero and it's important in the early game, but it kind of gets lost.
Yeah,
like
it's
in the middle and the late. Yeah.
Yeah, basically the hero is mostly a support unit.
Yeah.
The early game, but even in the early game, like the Grell hero doesn't actually do much damage. It's kind of bulky, but it has a very good utility spell. It can slow other stuff in an area, and that's about it, right? It's a very good hero. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like what not what you're thinking when you think of MOBA. Even in a MOBA, it would cover a support role,
Yeah,
so more utility. Then you have the middle ground, which is stuff like Protectorate. That they have both heroes that are more support focused, such as the Tech hero or the Dread hero, and then you have heroes that are more aggressive, right? Protectorate Nova or Mera. Well, Mera is a bit ridiculous in how aggressive the hero is, and which you just like go for the kill. Right? They're just pure bit sticks. They have powerful ability aim to kill. They don't have a lot of clear. They don't have a lot of support abilities. These are just, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna take this hero and I'm gonna try to kill your hero. I'm gonna try to snowball the game out of your hand, right? So and then you have Legion, which is the most reliant on hero, because that's the only way so you can get multiple ones microball at the same time. Now, one thing I need to say, and this is gonna blow the average RTS player mind, so Zerospace has done one very cool thing absolutely right, in my opinion, and that is the ability to have multiple spellcaster on one control group and to be able to use all of the spell without tabbing. I don't know how it took so long, honestly. I think this should have been in StarCraft forever. I genuinely don't understand why they didn't do it. I like it a lot. A lot.
I think it's just a limitation of the engine, probably. I will say it's really nice compared to even like Stormgate, where the dog howl ability and the car siege ability was on the same key. So I'd have like two cars come across the map and I'd be like, they're taking a long time to get here. And then I'd look and they're like sieged randomly in the middle of the map because I was trying to use a different ability on the same units on the same control group. We just don't need to do that. That could just not be a thing, apparently. So yeah, I agree. That's a very nice ergonomic change.
It's 2024. The technology is finally here to have one ability bar for every ability in a control in group. Of course, this means that different abilities will have to have different hotkeys. This doesn't actually go as badly as I thought. Like I was a bit suspicious at first, but when I actually played, it's completely fine. Works perfectly. It's actually really good.
Yeah, it's interesting because you really don't like the Topbar abilities from Stormgate, and you said that those you find that like implementation really clunky. Whereas in Zerospace, yeah, just having them on QWER, I don't even know if they go to T, right? And then there's someone like C and kind of that row. But you can kind of basically fit everything you need in like what I'll call like the standard grid layout of the keyboard, which is like you know the row QAZ, sorry, on my keyboard through to like RFV, and all of those are really easy to reach for like most people.
And the other thing is that the difference. So Zerospace also has a top ability bar, but I like it way more than Stormgate, as I said. The reason for it is it's twofold. So the way I think about it is the following: Zerospace really has 3 abilities. Like each race has 3 abilities, basically.
Yeah.
So technically 4, but it's very rare that you actually get to unlock the 4th one, because that requires to be quite in late game. So the way it works is that you have 2 basic abilities that are locked from the start. Then you have a final ability that gets unlocked at talent level 5. And then if you go all the way to talent level 10, you get the other final ability. So you choose one of the 2. There are 2 per race. And you get the other at talent level 10, which is much, much later. And it's very rare that a game gets to that point. At least my games are very rarely got to it.
I'm going to show my lack of experience again. So how long would you say it takes to get to level 5 in like a normal game?
Depending on so the thing is like obviously XP tower.
There's many like intercepting things going on.
Like if you get all of the towers from the start, it takes a lot less. But on average, in my game, I play with not many XP towers because I play very greedy at the start.
Mm-hmm.
I will say around 10 minutes maybe is where you get your first ability.
But then
10 to 12-ish.
all of the levels after that take longer to get to, right? It's not that they're like, it's not the level 1 time for the next, for level 6.
No. It's always the same time, I think, for each
Is
level.
it? Okay.
Yeah, it's just quite slow by default. But the amount of levels you get feels consistent. We should fact check this. Like, don't take my words for it.
It's something I just assumed it would be like, you know, like most leveling in most games. You know, like, I don't know.
No.
The classic is that 92 is halfway to 99. You don't even get the reference, but someone.
No, I do get it. It's RuneScape.
Yeah.
I think, is it halfway? I thought it was like 95 is halfway to 99.
I think I always get it wrong. It might be 95, it might be 92. I always get it wrong. Yeah, I think it's 92.
92 or 93.
But now there are skills that go all the way to 120. So now I think like 99 is not even halfway to some of the like some of the skills. Good times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as I was saying, it's the way I see it is the following. In Zerospace, you have two basic ability, one of which is always a recall. The recall is on average used quite rarely. Maybe 2, 3, or 4 times per game.
Yeah. So we should explain the recall has a very long like wind-up time. So in general, like you don't want to use it.
You have a couple of different recalls. Like some of them have more wind-up, but are very cheap. Like the Grell one has a long wind up. It's basically like a Nidus kind of escape. It takes 5 seconds. Some of them are instant but cost quite a lot of energy, like the Legion one, and also have a long cooldown. Some of them are a mix of the two, so they take few energy, but they are limited in how many units you can actually send. Like you also have like a limit in how you exactly do it, and a long cooldown, like the Protectorate. It's a bit tricky. But you don't need to know the specifics. They work like a recall.
My point is basically that you don't really want to be forced to use it, which means people tend not to make like really risky plays where they'll be out on the map where needing to use the recall is likely.
Yeah.
And in some ways, this is very different to how recall is used in StarCraft, where like you often want to get into a really bad position and then recall out. So like you might send your adepts all the way into the main and then recall them out, or you might, you know, play around Blink Stalkers a lot and get them kind of caught in the middle of the map and then recall them to safety.
Well, the problem with recall in StarCraft is that it has objectively no cost. Right? Like the cost is that a bit of energy, which is completely irrelevant.
2 chrono boosts of energy.
Yeah, 2 chrono boosts worth of energy, and 1 chrono boost worth of energy actually. Not 2.
Is it? I know chrono was 25 and.
No, they're both 25. No, they're both 50, not 25.
Yeah, you're right. 50. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I know this because it's more efficient to recall a probe than to
chrono 101. Yeah.
That's how I know that it's the same cost.
Yeah, not because of your vast experience playing Protoss. We should clarify.
Yeah, absolutely. I will never play Protoss. No, but the problem with that is that essentially the cost is minimal, and well, the biggest cost is that you can't use recall for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, but
what you're saying there is like you now can't get into a bad position for the next 2 minutes. It's like you can't do the thing that you just did again for 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, like your failsafe only works once. Right? Well, in Zerospace, all of the different recalls have like a different what's it called? A different problem with them, a cost. So the Grell one has the smallest cost. Doesn't cost a lot of energy, only 5 in fact, which is very little out of 100. And it basically has infinite capacity. Yeah, but it's slow. Like you have to pre-fire it.
Yeah. You want to place it like 100 meters ahead of where your units are, so that you can like run towards it.
Yeah. Like you place it is like a safe zone that teleports you, but takes 5 seconds to wind up. So you place it ahead while you're escaping. You don't like stand your ground, which also means, for example, that it can get quite tricky if you're like in certain positions, because like for example, if you're surrounded, and you use it, it doesn't save your unit because you're gonna get slaughtered if you cannot like.
And it's like you either place it on where your units are surrounded to get the ones that live out, or you can't then get to the zone where your your extraction is. I like it a lot actually because the opponent can see where you're trying to recall from, which to me means there's like more counterplay, you know, at least with the Grell recall, where they're like, oh, you're trying to get there, so now I need to like that kind of determines their movement. A little bit as well.
You also have the ability to, for example, use airstrike on it because it's so telegraphed. It takes so long. Like the whole area is a signal to both players. It's not like your opponent can. It's not a surprise. My units disappear, right? The Legion one has is instant, but it has a slightly longer cooldown, I think, and also costs more energy. Lily says the same, but I'm pretty sure this is not true. I will need to double check. Does it really only cost 5? I'll double check that later. But I thought it was more.
Apparently the sheets say, the ancient texts say both energy is 5.
Oh, then the Legion one is just straight up better. Because it seems that there's less cooldown apparently. We have same energy cost. I didn't know that.
Protectorate one they're trying to rework as we speak, I think.
Yeah. Protectorate had the most busted one. It was infinite, no cooldown. You could either do it basically was energy cost based on supply. You could recall single units and it would also heal them. So you basically use it like Blink. While you were attacking, each unit that was low you would recall and you would heal it back, and it came back like from your bases. And that was very powerful. Also, you could save every unit. It was impossible to kill anything. You could save your harvesters. You could save everything. It was one of the most broken abilities in the game. Its utility was unmatched. It was a get out of free jail card, get out of jail free card. Ah, fuck, whatever the hell is that.
No, you're right. You got it.
And that was also the one I complained the most. I said there was definitely a problem with it, and it had to be. It got nerfed. Now it changed. It's gonna be reworked again. I think that's the one that's like thing. So one of them, coming back to the ability bar discussion.
Yes.
One of them.
We talked for 5 minutes about recall, so now we can go back to talking about the thing we were talking about.
Yeah, you wanted me to describe the recalls. I just wanted to say recalls generally. I'm not gonna go into the thing that I'm about to say, despite what, like, look it up yourself. I cannot explain everything about Zerospace for you. But the second basic ability is basically what we call like a race ability, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the defining characteristic of the race.
Yeah.
Grell has Infuse, which is similar to Abatur's. I think it's also called Infuse or like Biomass Evolution or something like that. In StarCraft 2 co-op.
Yep.
So basically some units become stronger. Legion has the towers, which can be spawned anywhere. There are a couple of them, so that you can have aggressive tower, you can have energy tower, cooldown tower, stuff like that, that they help your hero and extend your all-ins or help you secure positions. Protectorate has reinforcement, which spawns 3 units in one of your bases. And those ones get used more often. They are varying costs. Some are fixed. In the case of Infuse, it's supply-based, depending on the unit that you want to make stronger. Like, it's a bit different. But the gist of it is, compared to the ones of Zerospace, that's it. You basically, those are the ones that you use more often. And this is the thing that you actually have to pay attention to. The rest is all about movement. And even stuff like Infuse, which is, I think, out of the 3, the one that you use the most often. Because on average, the average cost of an Infuse during the course of a game is 8-ish, maybe 10. It gets much bigger later on when you get Reavers, but usually you infuse Shades or like small stuff. So it's like 8-10 Lashers or Flying, like 8-10-ish. The towers are 15, the reinforcements are 25. And in that sense, that's the only thing you have to pay attention about the abilities, right? Compared to Stormgate, very cluttered, you have like 10 different abilities. Especially, I said this was especially a problem for Infernal. And you have to remember to use them, and some of them were bugged. A lot of them were not clear, and now they worked. A lot of those similar concepts also exist in Zerospace, but they've been moving to specific units, which feels cooler because then you can make the ability more powerful. That's the interesting part. Like, if the ability is attached to a unit, now suddenly you can snipe the unit.
Yeah, as opposed to like at any point the entire map can be covered in creep.
Yes.
Like, okay, which unit do I kill to get rid of that?
You cannot deny the dragon. There is no denying the dragon. There is no denying the what's it called? The overcharge. There is no denying the
the emergency turret.
On the infantry. Like, there is no recharge. Like, there is no denying the shield. There is just no interaction. You cannot interact with the enemy abilities. In Zerospace, some of them still have no interaction, but they're significantly less prevalent. And even those have more interactions. For example, infused units get stunned while in the cocoon. So you can't just infuse a unit. It's not like a shield.
And
just like,
they visibly change.
They visibly change. They get
so you can imagine, like, it's not as dramatic, but there's like a weak roach and you start to morph it, where suddenly, you know, everyone is like, oh, that's a weak roach, and I can shoot the egg and deny the Ravager. And then once it's morphed, you know, it doesn't change as dramatically as the roach to a Ravager does, but you can visibly see which one is an infused unit versus an uninfused unit.
I think it doubles the size, which makes it pretty
clear, so, you know, if that was important to you, you can now go, oh, I'll focus those ones because those are going to be the strongest ones. So it's quite kind of telegraphed and a bit obvious.
And then stuff like the towers, for example, are very positional based. They nerfed it so they don't get activated immediately, but they have like a 1 or 2 seconds wind up time, so you have time to react to them. Even the reinforcements are not actually instant. You see a flare on the ground, and it takes, I think, 2 or 3 seconds before the actual
and then you see the plane fly through and the parachutes.
So it's not like, oh, I'm attacking a base. The guy clicks the button 4 times, suddenly there's an army there. No, you see 4 flares, you're like, I have 3 seconds to get the fuck out, which is more than enough. Like, it has never happened in the history of Zerospace that you're attacking a base, the guy calls reinforcements, you see it, and you, like, don't have time to escape or to like work around it and stuff, right? So they offer way more counterplay compared to the Stormgate one, which feels instant and very cheap.
Like, you're attacking a base and you're like, I don't know, you got like lancers in the mineral line or whatever, and then like, ooh, jump scare, all of a sudden there's like an overcharged turret spawned instantly and shooting all of your stuff. It's very contrasting for sure.
And also, as I said, the fact that they're not, this allows for more creative game design, because for everything in Stormgate, as I've said, a lot of the things are tied to the ability bar, especially for Infernal. So you need the defense to be weak because you have the super tower that has a cooldown, right? The creep spread doesn't feel as important because you have the effigy and you have the, I think it's called Nightfall, that covers the entire map in creep. Stuff like this, or like every building has to be made with the idea of the recharge in mind.
That is true, and that really changes like how the entire kind of race, I guess, interacts, how everything operates, because it's all kind of clouded by the Topbar abilities as opposed to like aided by. It's kind of the inverse in Stormgate, in Zerospace, where like, you know, your unit exists and does one thing, and then you infuse it. It's not suddenly a different unit that massively works. You know, it works in a massively different way. It's just a bigger, stronger version of the same unit.
But it also gives you like time to react to it. That's my biggest point. All of the abilities, all 3 of them are not instant. The infused, all of them takes to
the tree is close. The tree is pretty quick, and it's quite strong for like.
I think the tree
is
like
cost, so.
Not as strong as you think it is, but I wouldn't mind being like slower. I guess it's also, I think, the worst one. I think the flower
this is true.
Is way stronger.
And
I think that's the most problematic one because that one is instant too.
In
case you haven't noticed, so that one is definitely like. The ones that has more problem, those ones, but at least they're ultimate ability, right? So high cost, you use them once or twice per game.
How much energy is it? All I know is that I never have enough to afford.
Flower is 30. Which, remember that you have to compete with the infuse, so they're lower. And 3 is 50.
And what I will say now is, because we kicked off with not balance whining, but definitely, the question I asked you that we've now been talking about for 40 minutes is top 3 races, like the order of the 3 races.
Protectorate is better than the other two. I think Grell and Legion are more or less equivalent.
But what I want to say is that we're not just complaining. There is a reason why we're picking this order and these races, right?
What do you mean? It's just the ladder. Like the ladder shows this.
Yes,
like,
this is what I'm asking.
Also, people switched. Well, at the moment, I'm the highest. Well, am I still? Let me check. Because Vortex might have woken up. No, Vortex is still sleeping. Nice. At the moment, I'm the highest Grell rated person on the planet.
Yes, but what rank is that?
I'm rank 6.
Yeah, but so the top 5, or the 5
fair,
above
you put me anywhere between rank 6 and rank 4 because the difference is 5 MMR at the moment. So it's not
let's
like
see the other 5. Okay, Lilypad says there are 3 Grell in the top 20. The top 5 are mostly Protectorate, I think, from what you said earlier.
The top 5 is 3 Protectorate and 2 Legions.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's me at 6 as Grell. And then the next Grell is Vortex at 8. And then the next Grell is Elaser at 14. Even though I think it's better. And then Zane at 19.
Where are the Legion players in there? Roughly.
Well,
do we know?
Reaper at 3, Fanots at 5, Sonic at 7, Liquid Fluid at 9, Show at 10, Kiwikaki at 11, Adagramus at 12. They're actually most of them.
So yeah, more. Okay, I see. But so that kind of explains. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Is that like we're not just picking our favorites. We're trying to back it up with facts and logic. Trying to Ben Shapiro it.
I mean, no, I'm not trying to like argue my way into a nerf or not, because like as I said, I've talked with the developers. All of the top players are in contact with developers.
Mm-hmm.
We get asked our opinions. That's the thing that I said many times before. I was very blessed. I was very fortunate to see like some real communication from the balance and the design team, in which we get asked a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talked with Katz, and Katz was like, "Is this fun? Do you think this is cool? Do you think this is balance?" Like they don't only ask about balance. Like we have talked about, for example, how certain things are perfectly balanced, but don't feel fun, right?
Yeah.
Or they're problematic. Like the
mechanics
Thresher, for example,
good or bad.
I don't think the Thresher is overpowered. I think the Thresher is terribly designed. It's very unfun to play as. It's very unfun to play against. Yeah, exactly. Katz has been on call most days of the alpha with everyone. Don't think that this is even like a top player thing. Oh, Lorimbo, you are the best Grell. Of course you get us saying it. No, like they're just very open about it. They also explains their decisions.
There's like threads that they have running, right? We're like, here's some changes we're thinking of making. What do people think? That are not just they're open to anyone, and people are free to leave kind of thoughts and feedback.
Yeah, they stream the developer meeting. So one particularly nice commenter in the video with Gemini told me Lorimbo Frost Giant. Lorimbo doesn't like Frost Giant because the guys at Frost Giant didn't fellate his ego enough. I don't
think he said fellate, but I'm glad.
No, he did fellate. He did say fellate. Wanna bet? I can bet $10 on this. Wanna bet? I remember it perfectly.
Okay.
You're scared of betting $10 on it.
Listen, $10 is a lot of money these days.
I'm 100% sure that he used the word fellate because it was such a particular word. That's why I remember it, right?
I thought he said. No. A more crude way of saying the same thing. Okay.
No, he said it like that's why it was so impressed in my memory because it was like he was so vulgar about it, but at the same time, it was like such a. I don't know how to pronounce it, Lily. I'm sorry. I'm not an expert in the matter.
I think you're an expert in the matter. You're just not an expert in the pronunciation.
Shut the fuck up. Anyway, no, jokes aside.
Yes, the comment was, it sounds like Lorimbo doesn't like the game because the developers don't fellate him enough.
Like, they don't listen to me in particular. But the problem that I had with Stormgates, as I've said before, was never that they have to listen necessarily to what I say. But I would have liked to see some communication. It's a beta test, alpha test, whatever you want to call it, right? We, the players, are communicating to the developers what we think. And I think the way that was handled was very poor. The feedback tracks, for example, were not good. Have you seen them? They were
Stormgate feedback threads. It's a thing, and then it's 150 posts. It's probably more than that now. Probably, definitely, nearly certainly, thousands of posts of mostly people complaining and bitching and whining about something or another. I mean, some of them are going to be like good feedback, but when you have this kind of method, it becomes hard to separate the signal from the background noise. And that means that most of those kind of threads are, in my opinion, ignored. And you'll go through and read it, and there'll be like no response from basically anyone on.
I literally have posted it as a tweet, by the way. But here it is, and you can see I was you owe me $10, HaRT.
Damn it!
you fool! I remember it was so particularly worded. I remember this very clearly. That's why, like, I was so sure about it. No, but jokes aside, my point was that we Stormgate.
The point is that you'd want your feedback to feel like it's being listened to. Otherwise, what's the point in giving it? I'm not gonna shout till I'm blue in the face to make a point that like ultimately no one even cares to hear. Like, why would I do that? What would be the point in doing that?
And this is the reason, by the way, because this is the reason why I did not make a Stormgate manifesto, because I didn't think it was useful. I said made some design dives, but the design dives were never aimed at developers. I had given up on them, but I don't think that they read them or
check them out on the channel and like and subscribe as well.
Yeah, those were directed to the community to encourage discussion. I eventually interrupted the series because the discussions were not being really interesting anymore. So I will slowly make it more of a once in a while thing.
They were good though, and I think they were valuable. I thought they were interesting and helpful for sure.
I think they were more helpful in shaping up my opinion of the community, the way we interacted. But I would be really surprised to know that they actually got watched or read. I made a short version too for the developers with ADHD that cannot watch more than 10 minutes of me speaking because I'm insufferable, which fair enough.
Yeah. I put you on 2 times speed and it was fine. So I think that's it.
Wow, not even putting it on 4 times speed, the Stonester method. No, jokes aside. With this, I felt the will from the developers, and I will always say this, to be interested in the game. Now, certain things have not gone well. I think certain things were not playtested properly, which was definitely a fault. I've told them so.
Well, you have evidence that some things were not playtested.
Yes, I do have evidence. But I was blunt with it. I'm always blunt. I'm never someone to sugarcoat my words. Especially in a quote-unquote professional environments. Look, guys, I don't care about what you think of me. I care about the game. I want the games to be good, whether it's Stormgate, whether it's Zerospace.
And you care about the point that you're trying to make in, in leaving that comment. You're trying to, it doesn't matter who's saying it. It matters, what the point is. I think there's a big, to escape from kind of this conversation in general. I think if you read anything on any kind of game discourse, you'll see people like, oh, you're only, you're in silver. Okay, and there are things that silver players can say that is true and things that Grandmaster players can say that is not true. Like, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference, to me, you have to take the point as a point and not the point as a... In fact, actually, probably there are more things that Grandmaster players say that are not true.
Because
you watch some of the folks on Twitch.
Because the Grandmaster are disconnected from the reality of 99% of the player base because they're outside of it. I actually would value more the opinion of someone who's fairly competent at the game, but not excellent at it. So probably Diamond to Master is the sweet spot. Because a Diamond to Master is someone who can clearly tell you this is frustrating, but also it's not like, well, you have played 2 games in your life, and you haven't learned how to deal with it. Of course, mech can be dealt with. All the way to Grandmaster, it's all mech. Everyone hates playing against it. It still has not been addressed. Because, and what's the common thing? Just get better. Bro, I'm better than everyone else at this game. I'm better than 99% of the people who have ever touched StarCraft. Probably more than that. Because of how...
because over time people got better.
people got better. I still think those things. I think the same things that annoyed me when I was Master or Diamond, still annoy me as a Grandmaster, even though I win against them. Because I genuinely thought that those were bad, those were not good. Even though I win, I know how to deal with X, I know how to deal with Y. 90% of the people are gonna quit the game because of it. Do you think that's good game design just because it's theoretically achievable? I don't think that's good. I don't think that's smart design.
There was one thing we talked about yesterday when I kept telling you to shut up because we were burning podcast content. Is the dog in Stormgate, and I think the dog in Stormgate is complete toxicity to.
It has to go. Is the dog a problem? No, at the high level, it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, especially since the most recent nerfs, the games that I get a worker kill with the dog, 1 in 25, maybe. Like, I'm not saying I'm playing at the highest level.
Obviously. My level at 0.
0, obviously, but like, it's really rare that like anything comes of it. But
it's annoying.
If you ask the average player, like, that's really irritating. I just don't need the "you are under attack" alert all the time at the start of the game. It's just annoying.
I'm getting fact-checked
You're getting fact-checked once again.
I ever lost one.
God, I wish I could be bothered to go through all of your streams and clip out all of the times you lose a work.
No, okay, but even though I might have lost some workers to dogs, always because of me fucking up.
And like, ping and
paying no attention, stuff like that. It's never like. But for the lower leagues, you play your first game of Stormgate. Even the worst part is it's not even race dependent. Whether or not you pick.
Well, it's in 2/3 of the matchups. If you're in a Inferno versus Inferno, you don't have to play against it. But if you're playing Vanguard or against Vanguard, there's a dog in the game somewhere.
Like you play Vanguard against Vanguard, like, oh fuck, it's dog versus dog at 20 seconds in the game. 20 seconds in the game, you have to micro a dog against workers. Why? That's terrible. I feel like that's terrible design. I feel like it also has problems with and at a high level, it's terrible designs for different reasons. Infinite vision, impossible to deny, really high value, makes it impossible to proxy or to cheese, like flattens the game a lot.
But this is kind of this dichotomy in terms of giving feedback, where we're saying like, all of those things are true, and they're at the high level they affect kind of the available strategy and the balance, let's say. But at the low level, it's just annoying. It's like, you don't have to be a GM to say this mechanic is just annoying. And I think that's I think there's value to that and value in that feedback.
Like the thing that makes me annoyed, I'm gonna shout out to shout out.
Do you want me to beep that out? Do you want me to just
beep it.
Censor?
Actually, censor. It's gonna be much funnier if you censor what I'm talking about. Shout out to certain people. Okay, look, developers, listen to me. I know you think you are the shit. I know you think you have the genius plan that in your mind you're gonna make the best RTS ever. It's perfect the way you envision it. Everyone is gonna enjoy it. But if your game sucks and people don't want to play, you can argue 20 hours how good of a design choice it was in your mind. But people are still gonna fucking quit your game. I don't know how to explain it. I feel so often people that I've interacted with, and this has gone for a lot of games. I'm not talking about Stormgate specifically here, before I get sued by Frost Giant. I feel so often that developers or like the publishing team or whatever it is, like the people working at this company are like, we have a vision, and they don't understand that you might have the best vision in the world, but if the game is not fun, it's not fun. You have to listen to the player at least partially. You don't have to do everything they want, because sometimes players don't know what they want. Very often, especially in other games, there have been some feedbacks that I've seen that were like, oh, this is frustrating, that is frustrating, everything is frustrating, we just remove everything, and the game becomes dull. Of course, but your job is to discriminate. between them. Your job is not to ignore and pursue your vision. Your job is to listen to the feedback and say, okay, this is reasonable. This other thing may be too much. Not every criticism is valid, obviously. Even mine, you can see mine. It's like, oh, this Lorimbo dude knows nothing. It's full of shit. You don't have to violate my ego, but you do have to like have channels, and you also have to like seriously listen, or at least, at the very least, in my opinion, if you don't want to do that, or if you're doing it, then you have to communicate with the players, right?
Yeah, I think it can be one-directional, but I think people need to feel like there is some communication instead of just screaming into the void. I think if there was, so what we see at the moment, I'm going to keep talking about Stormgate just because that's the thing, right? But at the moment, what happens is a patch drops, then nothing, and then the next patch drops, and when the next patch comes is when you know that they've seen something and they've come to rectify it. But what would be nice is for people to say before the patch comes out, after halfway between the two, is they would come and say, we're monitoring X, Y, Z, and you don't have to change X, Y, and Z. It may be that only Z makes it to the patch, but at least then people have received information that says, these are the things that we've been aware of. These are the things we're monitoring. These are the things, we're looking into.
One of the things that I really liked about the new StarCraft 2 vision, even though I definitely think there are problems, I think their communication for certain things has been either outright lies or just very misguided. But at least in every patch, I'm being told why this change was made. I've been told we want to do this. We are pursuing a more balanced PvT. We are pursuing this. We are pursuing that.
We are trying to make mech viable against Protoss. Yeah.
Some of them, in my opinion, were horribly misguided. But at least you can talk to them about it. So if you tell me, I want to make this change to make mech viable in PvT, you make the change, mech is still not viable in PvT, and you ruin the ZVT like the Cyclone change, then suddenly not only do I have like I can't just tell you, well, ZVT is now terrible. I can tell you, you didn't even...
you didn't fix the thing that you said you were trying to fix.
Yeah, the original...
there's a lot of value in that. Because otherwise, what you do is you look at the patch and you impart your belief about how things should be onto those things. So like you can look, you read you read their actions, not by their intentions, because you're not aware of their intentions. You have to kind of headcanon create your own intentions, and some people obviously decided that they were trying to ruin the game so that Zerospace would be successful, which is hilarious, by the way. But it's the only thing you can do when you don't have that like level of communication.
And I can show you a perfect example. This was actually a missed communication. Well, it was in a very big patch, and it was a very minor thing. But I had the opportunity to just ask. So in the last patch, the one that started this Zerospace alpha test, one particular unit got nerfed. A supply got upped by 1. It's the Chakru Worm from the Chakru Mercenary faction. I was very confused about this because the Chakru Worm is fucking awful. It's a terrible unit.
Yeah.
No one plays
No one used it, so why did you nerf it?
Why did you nerf it? I was extremely confused. I was like, is there some broken strategy I'm not aware of? Did they nerf this like because they anticipated that some other things was gonna like some interaction was gonna happen? I couldn't figure out. So this kind of like, so I asked. I don't think I can say who I asked. Maybe we can.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
I asked. Like, oh no, that's not really a nerf. In the sense, we didn't mean to nerf it. The problem was that specific MERS faction had too many units that cost exactly 6 supply. And that did not line up with the other MERS factions. So it wasn't symmetrical in a sense, right? So we were thinking about tapping the supply to differentiate between the cost, then after stuff cost like infusing cost and stuff, and we probably give the unit some other like other
buff it to compensate.
Like so this was a perfectly reasonable reason. So I saw something that was unreasonable, a nerf to a unit was shit. That didn't make any sense. That actually had a very reasonable explanation that I could have never have imagined because it's privy to the fact that I should have noticed the pattern of supply, which was not something that is normally relevant to a player experience. It is relevant from a design perspective because this allows you to have differentiation, especially with mechanics that are supply based. So since supply is another cost, like how many chuck room can you have in your army before you have 200 supply and stuff like that. These are things that you need to consider as a developer, but as a player, just
you only see the face of it. They're like the surface level, I guess, like how it affects your life, right?
It's very hard to discern the reason for it.
Before we dive back into talking about Zerospace, there is one thing I need to ask you about. There was a prominent part of the Zerospace manifesto that was complaining about ladder qualifiers.
Yes.
And they're back.
I like this solution way more. I think it's fine now.
Yeah, explain.
Okay, so the problem that I had, I'm gonna explain this. So Stormgate had an open tournament. Anyone could participate, and the top 16 would then seed into top 64 would seed for 8 more spots, and then also had a small ladder qualifier with top 4. It was better. Zerospace before had a complete ladder qualifier. So the top 16 tournament, the people there were gonna be the top 16 players in the ladder points at a certain cutoff time, which was 6 a.m. By the way,
6 in Europe. Would that
Europe.
be like 11 p.m. in California or something?
No, it was midnight somewhere. I think midnight Pacific.
Midnight California sounds right. Yeah.
It was like it made sense. It made sense in retrospect, like at least from the time. But this time it got changed to 9 p.m. first.
There's not a great time to call it, to be honest.
No, there is. No, there is.
When is good?
9 p.m., 8 p.m. Like around the time.
9 p.m. Yeah, it's 9 p.m. is 1 a.m. NA time. But where is that in Asia?
No. Well, we don't have Asian player, so we don't have this problem.
Okay.
I mean, you have to you have to account.
Yeah, if that's true, then that's fine. Yeah, that's
like.
Okay, am I? I'll type it. Hang on. Don't worry about it. Carry on. It sounds really bad now, but yeah.
No. The thing is, of course, you always like no matter which time you want. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure actually.
Anyway, continue, please.
Even with that, even if there are Asian players, they're in the minority. That's the point.
Yeah, for sure.
So no matter what, someone is gonna get fucked. That's inevitable. It's unfortunate. So usually the way you do it is either you try to find. First off, like that's still reasonable, because it's often like if you do it like for example 7 p.m. ish, it's like noon in America, 8 p.m. and like 2 a.m. in Korea.
Yeah.
Which is not great, but all of those are still playable compared to 6 a.m., which is just unplayable, like not doable.
Yeah.
Right?
So you should explain it a little bit why that's what do you mean by unplayable and why that was difficult?
Well, 1 second. I'm gonna go into it. So we're talking about the manifesto. So it was a big problem. So what happened? The problem that I had with this is that this was, you have to believe me, guys, one of the most stressful experiences of my life. I've had full exams in university. I've had university entrance test. Nothing was even close to the level of stress that this thing created me.
It's true.
Why is that a problem?
Lorimbo dyes his hair now. That's how stressful it was.
Yeah, I became... I lost like 10 years in lifespan. The reasoning for that was that ladder qualifiers are very cutthroat. You either in or not. The strategies matter only to a point. This kind of qualifier incentivizes a series of behaviors that makes it the game less enjoyable from a community standpoint. That was my biggest problem. So what do I mean by that? First off, first problem, MMR camping. You are not incentivized to play new strategies.
Yeah.
To actually play the game. You don't want to play the game. You want to play the
without
game
naming names. Let's say without naming names. You've done too many naming names. But let's say I find something really good on day 2. I found a strategy that's really strong. I play 10 hours for 2 days. I get to rank 8 on the ladder, and then I stop playing because
for 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks, because if I play, shut up, Billy. Because if I play, I'm gonna lose MMR. I'm gonna drop out of the top 16. Whereas if I just don't play, I can if I quit when I'm rank 8, I'll maybe drop down to like rank 14, but I might still make it through the top 16. The only way that I fall out of the 16 is just losing MMR, which is going to happen if I play too much. With a strat that isn't really overpowered, or something that is now solved. You know what I mean?
Yes. So this was one of the problems. The other problem was since the ladder qualifier ended up at 6 p.m. in Europe, you couldn't go to sleep. I consider I don't know if you're gonna.
You told me to. You told me you were gonna go to sleep. You were rank like 13, 14 or something, and you were
I was rank 9.
Really?
At 11 p.m.
Okay.
I was rank 9 at 11 p.m. And by the end I was like rank 14, 15, just barely qualified.
Yeah. Because you were like, oh, I'm going to go to bed. I was like, there's no way you can sleep. Like, there's just absolutely no chance you're actually going to be able to fall asleep.
Yeah, because I have to go to sleep. And then like 50 guys in America are going to play each other forever and like get above me. And I have no way of competing with that because it's 4 a.m. in fucking Italy. Like, what can I do about it, right? So that was definitely a problem. And this is exactly what happened, by the way. I had to make an alarm at 5 a.m. to wake up, open my PC, check. I was so tired. And check. Am I still in the top 16? Do I have to play? Is someone that could go above me still play? I checked. I realized that I was safe. Like, worst case scenario, I was gonna end up as exactly 16th.
Yep.
If both Arstem and Probe qualified, which only Arstem did eventually. And I went back to sleep.
But in that way, you were kind of helped out because Probe is obviously in Australia. Well, not obviously. Probe is in Australia, and then in Australia, I think it was. Actually, Australia might have been a normal time. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was like...
so you might have even got... Yeah, it might be even worse, actually. But yeah, now it'll be better, because I think it'll be like 5 a.m. in Australia now, so... But this is the problem with the ladder qualifier, is, it has to end at some point. I guess the way to get around it is to have like a game limit, and just be like, you can play 100 games in a row, and whoever's got like the highest number after 100 games is
no, that's no, because that incentivizes like playing customs, morphing ID strategy. No, that's even worse, trust me. So the other thing was you wouldn't share strategies because everyone could be your competitor, right? Like if I'm talking with Art and Art is also playing the same race as I am, I don't want to tell him what to do. I don't want to help him. Why? I'm shooting myself in the foot. Like in StarCraft, for example, you are incentivized to share strategy. Of course, you keep strategy from your opponent, but you have practice partners because ultimately we're all in this together for the better of the esport. Right? Like,
this is why like pro teams work so well, right? It's like you would have someone in your team who wasn't in your group. And I think this is part of why like GSL group selection was fun. It's just like, I'm not going to pick like my teammate to be in the group with me because I want to practice with him and I don't want to knock him out of the tournament because we're in a team together. So there's many reasons why why that would work. And if you found somebody who you were decently friendly with who wasn't in your group, you can ask them for customs and hope that they don't leak your strat to somebody else, basically.
The other reason why this was bad is because their balance gets affected. What do I mean by that? Well, am I encouraged to lie about the balance? At one point, I was honest. At one point, I think on day 3 or 4, no, actually later, might be later, I found an absolutely broken strat. I could have easily gotten rank 1 with that. I'm sure of it. It was completely busted. It was unwinnable against. It was like puzzling Russia. It became the meta. Even after it got nerfed, it was still the meta until the end. That's how busted the strategy that I found was. I realized how powerful it was, and then just snowballed out of control. Right? I did not play a lot of games of it because I didn't feel comfortable. It was very clear to me that I was not winning games because I was better. I was winning games because this thing was unstoppable. Like this thing was unstoppable, completely unfair, and I reported it. I said, this must be nerfed, even though it was my strategy with my race. Right? And other people were encouraged of doing the same. So Reaper, for example, at the time played against Scarlet with the strategy to show how dominant it was, because Sasha was not convinced of it.
And Sasha is really good, like incredibly good.
Yeah, Scarlet's really, really good at this game. Like the number 1 player, basically, for sure. Right? So everyone was encouraged to hide the Imba. Like if I find something Imba, I want to abuse it as much as I can. get the MMR and never share it, and never explain, never getting nerfed.
The classic one with that is Darkness Sanctuary, where there was like a 2-pylon wall into the main base, and Parting did it against Solar in a GSL. We had like this secret cannon rush spot, and I just couldn't tell anybody until he got to pull it out for a free win in the GSL.
It was a one.
Was it one pylon spot? That's right. Yeah. At the bottom of the map.
Like you could put no, it was in the middle of the ramp.
Yeah.
Block the ramp. Oh no, it was at the bottom. It was at the bottom.
It was at the bottom, but it was like the middle bottom, and there was like destructible plates that are meant to stop it, but they didn't actually block the pathing. Yeah, so it was a 1 pylon wall. Yeah, it was a hilarious game, but like, yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. And kind of going back to what you're talking about, like kind of antisocial stuff, is people then had multiple accounts and were encouraged to smurf.
You couldn't play off-race because the off-race MMR at the time was not different. Thankfully, now is. I discussed how, like, basically this turned a community of people that I already knew were friendly. I liked them. They were my friends. Into the most cutthroat competition ever. And not because I dislike these people. To this day, I still like them very much. I'm still friends. We talk together, like, still. But business is business. There was a lot of money on the line, especially because qualifying will give immediate money. Like, just qualifying will give you at least $200, which is a lot as like aspiring pro player or as a middle player. It was a lot for me. I was like, wow, this is $200. That's a lot. I've never won that many
good money. So.
I've never won that much money. Like maybe if you're in America, you get paid $130K per year. Yeah, like $200. That's nothing. I'm like, no, bro, I'm a poor student in Italy. I don't see that kind of money that easily, especially from a video game, which I can actually compete.
And especially because it was, for you in particular, not for you, in particular, it's a very heavy sunk cost fallacy. Where it's like, okay, I've played 35 hours, and I can be like, okay, this is stressing me out. I'll lose the money. I won't qualify, whatever. I'll just call it. Or I can play for another 15 and not sleep and wake up at 1 a.m. Wake up at 4 a.m. to play more. But it's such a sunk cost by that point that, like, it's really unavoidable. In any case, that's kind of the history and why that.
The history, I found this to be the most problematic competitive experience I've ever found it. At the time, because then we had the EGG tournament, which was, at least format-wise, completely fun, and the actual execution was the most meme tournament of my life.
The VTL, the Vulcan Team League that we played with Team ATRT,
that was really cool.
That you said was the best experience because the pressure was pretty minimal, and it just means you got to hang out and it was fun.
Yeah, I like the way it was structured. I like the fact that it was a team event. I think it was great.
And that one is actually the exact opposite of what we were just talking about, where Bossa and Luolis played, like, I don't know, maybe nearly 10 games on a map that, like, really nobody plays on, and it ended up being, like, really helpful for our team that we
literally won, because of Night Phoenix game. We would have lost we eventually won the entire tournament as the #1 ranked team, and it was because we collaborated. I had Eric telling me strategies, we practiced against each other, we had cool stats all along, so I told Boss how to do the airborne push that Eric taught me. Boss practiced with Luolis. Art was completely useless.
I have a higher win rate than you. How is that possible?
Yeah, because you played the 2 games against lower rated opponents.
Irrelevant.
And eventually, like, all of those things came, like, it was like an actual Cinderella story. We need to do one day. We'll need to.
I think we need to get the whole ATRT together, but that's going to take.
Yeah, like Eric teaching me how to play the airborne push, which I eventually managed to get out top.
I'll try and get clips, because I think we can't play the replays anymore.
Yeah, we cannot play the replays.
So I might get clips together and we can talk through the basically entire tournament. I think that'd be good. Good content. Yeah.
So, like, Eric telling me a push that eventually beats Kivian twice, in fact, or a playstyle that I've never seen before. Luolis practicing with Boss for the map, me practicing with Boss for the Muta switch in Infernal versus Infernal, finding out how strong Muta switches were, telling him, look, you have to trust me on this. I know you don't think this is good. This is really good. And him just like, okay, I'm gonna try it.
And played that against Hydra.
Yeah, and then winning everyone, like killing everyone with it. Like, oh wow, this shit is really powerful. That we found out. Collaboration stuff, like, was one of the most fun experiences in my life. And the Zerospace one was the opposite. Now, what's the new one, and why do I think it's better? The new one is gonna be a 32 spot tournament. I think the money is from 60 onwards. I think they have not said anything. So for all I know, it might be money even in top 32. I don't think it will though.
Maybe Producer Pad can find the split. But yeah, Producer Pad says can't see anything about prize money so far. But yep.
Yeah, I checked it too, and it was like nothing. So I don't know exactly how it works. Why do I like this? So how is this structured? There are 32 spots. I don't know how the seating will be made, so that might be problematic.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult.
16, on the 6th of April, there's gonna be a qualifier, an open qualifier. This is gonna decide 16 of those 32 spots. So this will be just a qualifier, like you can
a regular tournament. Yep.
Like anyone can participate. The number 2000 on ladder can participate, and if he beats opponents enough, he will qualify. So you don't have to practice for it. It doesn't force you to play a lot. Well, of course, if you play a lot, you will get better at the game, so it's better. Yep. But there is no like clash or like things like, oh, I have to like grind games. You are free to do the open. You don't have to do the stress. You don't have like to dodge certain people to get better matchups or anything like that. So there are
or try and snipe streamers or something. Yeah.
And then you also have the ladder qualifier edition, which I like. I'm not against ladder qualifiers at all.
And the order of the two is quite important as well, right?
Yes.
So it's the tournament on the 6th, and then the ladder qualifier comes later.
Yes. So the ladder qualifier being later means that if I don't qualify to the tournament, I'm like, oh, now I have to try hard. So I get the option instead of having to do the ladder qualifier failing, for example, like I have to win this tournament, which puts you a lot more pressure, right? Because it's way more pressure to have to win a tournament compared to like, okay,
if I lose this game on ladder, it's not a big deal. As if I lose this one tournament game, it can be even in a best of 5, you can come down to 2-2, and then it becomes a best of 1 functionally.
Yeah, exactly. So like if you lose MMR on ladder, you can also regain it. You can play more. You can find better strategy. You have time. You can talk with your friends. The other thing is, and the reason why I think, like, Producer Pad asked me a really good question. She asked me, how don't these problems that we discussed before now affect the 30-second spot instead of, say, 16 pros? They still do. Of course they still do. Some of the problems, those are always going to be present with ladder qualifier. There's always someone was going to get fucked. But qualification for a tournament is always going to create problems by default. Someone who deserved, quote unquote, to be there is not going to be there, whether because he didn't play well enough, he didn't perform up to start,
rough
he woke
seeding.
up, rough seating, it woke up like imbalance, like injustice, quote unquote. There's always going to be present. The reason why I walked the dog, I walked the dog that morning, so they were not playing too well. Stop walking dogs, guys. Improves your.
Okay.
Stop walking the dog will improve your sarcasm performance.
Okay, that one got me. Walk the dog. Yeah.
But by splitting the qualifiers and by increasing it to 32. You have the option. 32 is a way more significant portion of people that have played the game a lot. What I mean by that is, of course, this depends on the tournament. Like in the future, when the game has 10,000, 100,000 people, this will have more problems than before. But right now,
I like that you say when, not if. That's good.
But right now, 32 is a goal that's reasonably achievable, even by people that are not that good at RTS in general. That's the mark-off that I make, like, right? So I think about someone like maybe Boss is good at RTS. I think he would have good shots even with the top 16 qualifier. I'm actually glad I didn't have to compete with him in the other one. But it's good for people like Producer Pad, for example. Right? I've always been on the verge. Sure. Like I can actually play, or for HaRT, for example. People that are good at RTS, but they're not like pro players or like top grandmaster or anything. I think that this top 32 like includes a broader spectrum than the usual knowns. That's the thing. It's not always the usual name. If I go right now on the leader and I go for the top 32,
many of them
see a lot of people that I've never heard of before that are enjoying the game and they get a chance of proving their worth. And I wouldn't say start a career in pro gaming, but at least like say, wow, I really can do this.
But it helps, yeah. Yeah, I think it works around people's schedule a lot better as well, because you know, pro players that previously played a lot, so like Elazer was playing a lot, Harston was playing a lot. Now they don't have to; they can just show up and play on the tournament, which is going to be something that they're like more used to and have like almost an innate advantage at, because they've played, you know, big stage tournaments before.
The other thing is this makes the ladder qualifier slightly less stressful. Why? Because because of the order. Let's suppose I'm a top 10 player in ladder even, right? Like no, sorry, a top 20-ish ladder player. I tried the open, I don't manage to qualify. I lose an important match, maybe in the finals. Someone else better than me.
Maybe you get Luciferon in the round of 8.
Yeah, Lucifer like
round of 24 or something like whatever.
Yeah, like something weird, like unfortunate. I didn't manage to qualify, right? Now, I don't have to compete with everyone. I have to compete with the best 16 players that did not qualify through the tournament. So now that means that suddenly the competition is at my level. Now I am the top dog. If I was top 20-ish, right? Like I'm one of the top 4, because presumably, like, of course, it's not like
it won't be the exactly top 16.
Yeah, it won't exactly
on the
be the top
qualify.
16,
Yeah,
right? It's like there's always gonna be a bit of sketch, a bit of up and down, etc. Right?
Yeah, but the majority.
But the majority will be around that level. So now I have a chance to compete in an environment where if I lose to someone really good, I'm not shooting myself in the foot. I don't have to dodge Lucifron anymore. Because even if Lucifron gains 200 MMR, he's already qualified. He's not my direct competitor. So the guy that I have to worry about is someone more of my level. So there is no pressure of like, oh, I have to dodge this guy and that guy. Of course, there's always a bit of pressure because you are going to lose MMR. But it's exactly half as much pressure. Because before, like watch Probe versus Arstem to qualify at the end. Every win counts double. Because I gain 10 points and you lose 10 points. So the gap between us widens by 20.
Yep.
Which means that if you get someone else, now you have to win 2 times to go back. Like if I stop playing, you are 20 points behind. You have to win twice while losing once. And that feels terrible. Like these kind of things will still happen, of course, because of course there's always going to be competition. But suddenly the competition is a bit more spread out, let's say. It's not as cutthroat. But of course, there's always going to be a 33rd player who just barely misses it. That's inevitable.
Yep.
Right? But the more the number of players, especially compared to the general population, the more... Like, not everyone can
the more inclusive. And those tend to be better games, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to divert things a bit. I think we've been too nice. That's what I would say. I think we've said lots of nice things. And now we have to start the filling of the shit sandwich. And of course, there's only one filling to a shit sandwich. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. Again, when I kept shouting at you to shut up and start reading podcast content. I'll say, for someone trying to learn Zerospace, it feels incredibly deep. Discuss.
As I said, I'm a bit on the fence on this take. The way I will say is your first game is going to be terrible. That's for sure. Sorry.
Punching the laptop?
No, I didn't. I moved my hands up while it was like slightly beneath the corner of the laptop and almost flung it away. Like I was doing this movement, but my hand was under the laptop. I didn't realize. Because it's elevated. So, how do I explain it? The first game, you're going to get into the game, is going to be mind-blowing. This was my experience too. I remember when Iba got me into this game. Thank you, Iba. Always a bro. We can finally reveal the guy who made me play Zerospace in the first place.
Yeah. Iba didn't get me, just saying.
I played one game. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. There is a hero that has ability. There are like 20,000 different units.
To rewind. There's already a problem there because there's a choice of 4 heroes.
Yeah,
so it's not like there's a hero with an ability. There are 4 heroes. with
per race.
per
Some
race.
of them overlap.
Some of them overlap, some of them don't. Some of them.
Then you have mercenary heroes.
Mercenary heroes, which change per mercenary faction, and there are what, 6 of them? 5, 6, 7 of them.
5 mercenary factions.
5 mercenary factions. So there are
right now.
Okay, so per race there are 8 options. Am I right?
No.
5 plus 3 is that 8?
No. Usually the number of options of heroes is 4 to 5 usually, but 4 usually.
But I mean, if I choose a different mercenary faction, I can pick a different mercenary hero.
Yeah. So it's like 5 to 6 then.
Okay.
Depending on like, because for Legion it's actually only 3, because you always get the same 3. You don't get.
But the order that you get them is different.
Yeah, the order you get them is different. Like, okay, but yeah, so you have heroes. I have to choose a hero. RTS, I have to build depots and incubators and make units. And there are so many different units that make different things. Spells, what does this do? What does that do?
And then,
every unit has a spell.
Then you level
then you have
up.
Talents.
You level up,
like,
and there's a thing flashing at you. It's like, pick one of these. And there are 3 that you have to read, and they'll all talk about things that you haven't even heard of yet, so you don't actually know what they're which one is good. Yep.
1 second, sorry.
Well, yeah. Why is there a lady with a lightsaber now hitting my expansion right as I'm trying to decide which talent of it?
Why did the enemy hero just solo my natural? And then the obvious question: did this get play tested? Am I dumb, or did this not get play tested? And the answer is no one has tested it. No, jokes aside, it's a bad impact. I mean, one thing you're not considering, HaRT, though, with this is that you are gonna get eased into it by campaign and tutorials, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I did play the tutorial. I did. But the tutorial is only for Protectorate, I believe.
Yeah, but like in the final game I'm talking about.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
It's gonna be a bit more fleshed out.
Yeah, and I think so, you have to take things as they are, and it's still a beta. Is it a beta or an alpha? I think it's a beta. It's still a beta, so
they like the meanings has been completely lost.
Yeah, this doesn't make a huge amount of difference.
As I said, the thing that's like my hope is that stuff like campaigns, stuff like tutorials will ease into some of the systems, which per se each system is actually fairly simple. I think HaRT can agree.
Yeah.
There is no system where you're like this. But the problem is that there are so many, and some of them, like, there are just a lot of options. I think the most complicated system is talents, but not because it's actually hard to understand. It's because it's very hard to gauge.
Yeah.
Your language is not a real language, like worse than Dutch. Gauge how powerful X or Y is, especially because some of them are a bit unclear what they do. Like,
yes, but this is why the backseating video, which is coming out soon, trademark. It'll be like the day after or 2 days after the when you're watching this. It was so helpful. It's because what you really need is some direction. And actually, I mean, to go back to talking about MOBAs, League implemented this recently, where now there's like a little flashing plus that says at the start of the game that says like, level your Q first with Nidalee. And then, you do that, and then you hit level 2, and it says, okay, now do E. And obviously there's flexibility, and there's situations where that won't be the order that you actually want. But the fact that it's there is very helpful for people who would otherwise just go QWE. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now it'll tell you, now you should be maxing this ability. There are situations when you can play Emax Riven. But, like, are we saying that the majority of people, like, the peak of the bell curve should be playing Emax Riven? Probably not.
No.
And I think this is something, that is helpful. Should that be in Zerospace? I'm not sure. I think, I don't know. I haven't thought that much about it, actually. What do you think, actually?
As I said, I think those things are will be implemented in the future. I don't think they're that important. Like, when you make a game, I don't think the tutorial is the first thing you make. It just doesn't make sense.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Be playable,
but,
right?
Yeah. But in terms of getting people caught up to speed and
it will be tricky. It will be tricky for sure. We are gonna publish the video, as you mentioned.
Well, we talked about this in previous ones, and this is like universal thing in RTS because it's just the nature of the game. It's almost sandbox where it dumps you in and it says like, here are your workers, and then this is where you'll see like Bronze League heroes and they're going like Supply Depot, NG Bay, Planetary in my natural, and it's, you know, everyone watching that's good at the game is like, oh, this is the worst opening you've ever seen. But the fact that there is this flexibility is also what makes the genre, right?
Yes. Well, yes and no, in the sense that Zerospace compared to StarCraft has the macro is quite simplified, right?
Yeah.
So that reduces a bit of the options, which I both like and don't like, in the sense that with the mercenary, I think, and the talents, I think overall the number of options and the complexity is the same or even higher as StarCraft. It just shifted into different systems, right?
Yeah.
Instead of having everything on just the build order. Like StarCraft is all about the build order.
Yeah.
Spend the money, make the workers, and then at the very high level is decision making.
Yeah, and you can go to a custom and just do the same build order 50 times against an AI and then take it to ladder. And if it's a good build order,
Zerospace is of course also about build orders, but build orders are much more simplified. So from the very start of the game, you can get the build order from a pro player, one of the best players in the world. Like you can get my build orders, which is the one that I used to be the top Grell player, and you are gonna replicate it pretty effectively. You're not gonna be at my level because you like the decision making, but the build order itself is not hard to execute, right? There's not like, oh yeah, and then Serral injected perfectly for the next 10 minutes. Good luck replicating that.
Didn't lose a single turn because his queen movement is insane and his vision is perfect. Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, like, I can never reach the same amount of precision that Serral has, right? Some people dislike it. I actually really like it because, as I said, a lot of that complexity has not disappeared. It has been moved in different systems. So like now, suddenly, you can autopilot the build at the start, and you can 1v1 with the hero, which is cool. It's a fun mini game. I like it. Or now, army positioning run by is way more important because your macro is streamlined, so you don't win a lot of games by just making more units.
Yeah,
you can do more of the stuff, fun stuff. Where you're like, oh, like the Florencio, like I'm gonna make invisible units, I'm gonna sneak. Like, all of that stuff becomes way more viable because the builds are easier. So now to execute like a cool strategy, like a queen drop, well, you only have to do the micro part, which is the fun part. Like, I'm cool, like I'm perfectioning my queen drop, which becomes better, and I'm having fun while doing it, right? So in my opinion, this is one of the reasons why I'm hopeful about Zerospace. Is because I genuinely think that with this mix-up of things, with the way moving the complexity from chores and macro things to more decision-making aspects, the game can be more fun and fresh for players. Like, I get to do all of the cool fast stuff. I've seen players play their favorite units, which are shit, behemoths. Like, oh, I love behemoths. I love making for them. And they don't win a lot of games because the strategy is not as good. But they're never like, I lost this game because I didn't make enough. You know, like I couldn't even get to behemoths because my opponent just like did a cheese or killed me, or like I floated 2,000 minerals. Those mistakes still happen, by the way. I watched Pink Pegasus float 3K.
Cool out. With name and shaming today, Jesus.
It's a friend, he knows I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Boss raises a good point. Can lead to more rock, paper, scissors situation, though, with hero matchups and permanent ladders. Yes, absolutely it can. Is it like that right now? I genuinely don't think so. So I think that situation is a problematic one that can be possibly happen. But so far, they've been pretty good at avoiding it, right? So I feel like, you know, it's definitely a risk. You have to be a bit more careful about it. The balance is gonna be harder, right? Because every unit can have a lot of potential, and maybe some units are some units are a bit easier to use and stuff, right? But so far, I think like Stormgate had a way worse problem. Like if I think of Infernal versus Infernal early game build orders, like.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that you raised. It's like,
you know what they think about those.
The beginner friendliness is almost worse definitely worse in Stormgate, close in StarCraft. In StarCraft, when you're new and you load in, oh, it's my first game, and then you get 12 pulled, and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? This guy has attacking units in my base 2.5 minutes into the game. And the only way to not lose to that is to go and like Google 12 pool counter and like, listen to, I don't know what comes up. Maybe pig, probably mana comes up.
Banda Permi.
Banda Vermi comes up and it'll tell you how to hold it in ZVZ for sure.
Unironically.
Yeah.
No, Lambo right now. Lambo. Wait.
I was thinking of ZVP. I know the Lambo video. I think that will come up before Panda Vermi.
Let's take a look. How to hold 12 pool. Harstem, Vibe, Panda Vermi.
Nice. Okay.
In this order.
I'm surprised Harstem is there for the.
Apparently, he has a 4 years ago guide beating 12 pool. Which, to be fair, I've watched. I don't think it's a good counter to
yeah, maybe it was 4 years ago. In any case, this is kind of I don't know what you call it, like maybe meta learning. Like you have to learn, not learning about the meta of the game, but it's learning that you have to do outside of the game, like abstract from the game.
Before you even get to play.
Yeah, and it's like, this I think is pretty rough for a lot of new players. A lot of new players will come and they'll play and then they'll get cannon rushed, and it's like, the answer to this is not obvious and it needs research and homework. And more than anything, most people playing video games don't want to be doing homework. That's like the whole point of procrastinate on your homework, right? Is to play video games and not do your homework. Why would I procrastinate on my homework and then go and do homework for a video game? So I think in that way, Zerospace is doing really well, particularly because I've seen some people get rushed, like on stream. They're like getting rushed. The game, they didn't hold it perfectly, but they didn't die, and the game carried on and was pretty playable.
Yeah, I've also seen incredible comebacks. Because like the way the game works is just more forgiving, right? Now that might create some problem in the future. I've decided there are some things like I myself changed my mind. I thought it was terrible that you could get 3 bases for 3 at the start. I've bitched and whined about with Zeno for this. But now that I've seen how the metagame has evolved thanks to that, I'm like, you know what? I like this metagame way more than when the meta was 1 base. So I feel like you get to use more of the cool units, you don't get punished as hard, there's more counterplay, more options, right?
Yeah.
So I changed my mind on that.
There's a range here, right? Where it's like, you don't want a game where everyone is guaranteed to play for an hour and you're just stuck. Even if you do the most aggressive thing you can in the early game and the game is going to drag forever.
Do I have to remind you the average length of a Stormgate game when we started this patch?
It was not great. Yeah, it was
what
pretty
was it?
long.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Oh,
was like.
Was not long. Yeah, but then any game with the Vanguard and it always went long because it's the opposite side of the coin.
It depends. Dog versus dog was even in Vanguard.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you ended up with this like weird dichotomy where it's like you either died. You're either like too fragile and you just got run down by a million fiends, like especially before the Infest nerf. And it was like, cool, I got A-moved. That was really good fun. I died 3.5 minutes into the game. Or you like held it and then the game would go along until you eventually deathballed and won. And those don't feel great, basically. I still think there needs to be like viability in early game plays, because otherwise you may as well not have the early game. You can just like skip straight to a few minutes into the game. And this is why a lot of people were not keen, actually, that the number of workers changed in StarCraft 2 from 6 to 12, because a lot of people think that like the number of openers that you get from having fewer worker starts is actually interesting and important and changing the game in a meaningful way. I don't know. I think it's a fine line to walk. Ultimately, I think it comes down to what the majority of people want to play. And most people are quite keen to get at least to like touch the late game. I think there becomes a point where like if every game is going up for an hour and a half, no one wants to play that again. But like, yeah, I think there's definitely a range there of like viable, interesting, valid games versus, let's say, something like in your first game in StarCraft when you get 12 pool and it's over in 2 minutes and it's just like no one actually wants to play that.
Look like if we did like 10 workers instead of 12 or 8. Like we didn't necessarily have to do with double.
Yeah.
Like that's that interesting thought experiment that you can do, by the way. If you like to do that, there's like a bunch of things you can think of. But yeah, the gist of it is I understand that the game experience for a new player in some way can be overwhelming. But the counterpoint will be that I feel like a lot of the things that make StarCraft so frustrating or Stormgate so frustrating are not present here, right? I feel like the simplicity of the game is in a way strength, where you're like, well, I played 2 games of this. I don't quite know what the best meta strategy is. I don't quite know what I'm supposed to do to have the highest chance of winning. But like I am more or less don't die to an all-in. I'm like, I start to understand how a talent works. Maybe this one that I really like. There were people, Exo Lightning, for example. A lot of people are a fan of one of the worst talents in the game, which is the Raptor Ling.
Yeah, as opposed to the Poison Ling.
As opposed to the Poison Ling. It's not a talent upgrade. I lied.
But it's a choice. It's in Zerospace, it's a binary choice. You pick one or the other. You can't.
Yeah, and they're like, well, I understand that it's worse, but I like the strategic things that you can make. Like, one of them is always gonna be better, right? That's inevitable. Maybe like you can have a situation which both are like almost equally viable, and depends like a lot on the situation. That's cool.
Yeah, I think that's the ideal. I think that's what you want.
Yeah,
out of,
but it's really hard to get in that position, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that way necessarily, in my opinion. You have to have some upgrades, but not every upgrade has to be equally as viable. I think it's perfectly fine for them to mean the upgrades are a bit wacky, a bit fun, a bit things like that.
Yeah, I think maybe in that case, having non-binary upgrades works better, where you can have, you can have this and a different upgrade, and then your choice becomes like the timing when you get it, or like the cost and how you weigh that up in your mind. Like, I don't know, Burrow and Overlord Speed cost the same. So you could argue that, like, you can eventually get both, but with your second 100 gas, or maybe, let's say, your third 100 gas, you can pick one and go from there. It's a bad example because no one gets really early game Burrow, but, boring.
I don't ask Reaper about it. He likes it.
Yeah.
12 pull with Burrow, 13-12 with Burrow, one of the certified Reaper builds.
Yeah, there was a guy that was doing roach all-ins with Burrow, like in ZVZ. So he would like burrow roaches under where you wanted to wall, so that you could never actually wall the roaches out, and obviously it heals them as well. So yeah, but that's a Diamond League hero. What can I say?
Yeah, but like stuff like that is part of why a game, because like the problem is a lot of people think of StarCraft and they think of Serral. And I think Serral is the worst person to watch to sell StarCraft to a friend. Not because he's not cool, because he's insanely cool, and I wish I could be him, and I wish I could. No, I'm kidding. But
are you transitioning to finish?
Yeah.
You started going to the sauna every day.
Me and Serral in a sauna. It's gonna be a sweet love story. No, I'm kidding. But it's because you don't like. Serral is not the most, like, no offense. Yone's gonna watch this, gonna fucking kill me. No, he's not gonna watch. He doesn't care.
Nah, anyway.
Yeah. But it's like, he's not exactly the most exciting player ever, right? Nowadays it's a bit more exciting, but like that's not what sells you on StarCraft. Like, it's not watching someone like play quite defensive with perfect scouting and like making decisions that you don't understand. It's watching someone bling mag, like, oh, that's so cool. Someone like all-in or like a parting or someone like that.
Yeah, Mothership Rush was like the most hype moment ever. Everyone's screaming Mothership, Mothership. It's like, that's not the best build. We're like, that's a memorable moment. Or like, I don't know, Mass Hallucination from HaRT is one of the most memorable moments.
Yeah, the Hydra GG, right? So the ability to have suboptimal plays that are cool and fun and recognizable is, in my opinion, definitely good for the longevity of the game. Because you have to remember that ultimately, no matter how you shape your game or you balance it, 99% of the players are not going to be the top 1%. That's how it works, right? The game has to... Yeah, that's a tautology. But what I mean by that is that your game has to account for the fact that most of your players are not the top 1%. They don't care that Serral can defend X or Y perfectly, or that as long like if you just start tall enough, you're gonna win if you have like the perfect scouting. They just want to enjoy the game. It's that simple sometimes.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue the shit sandwich. We've not got long left. I will say, visual clarity
needs to be
a
fixed.
bit to be desired.
I've bitched to cats about this. Come on, bro. Like, okay,
I think it's always a thing. I'm a bad example because I am colorblind.
You are colorblind. I'm just dumb. But both of us can see shit.
Yeah, this is true. There's the many Lorimbo blind moments now.
Yeah.
There are a few things though that I think are rough. I think the ragdoll physics are cool, but they make it really unclear. It might be the health bars actually that they're just like maybe too small for me. That might be something I need to look into. But definitely, like a unit will die and then it will fly, and I'm like, oh, it's running. It's like it's not running. It died. It's rolling. But like, you know, I think some more distinction there would help me a lot. Particularly the shades. I always get a bit confused about the shades. Yeah, I think the some of the unit clarity is born. Producer Pad says 4 different people ask if the Protectorate player is playing Legion. Yeah, I think this is a big one.
I had games in which after hundreds of games, I'm playing someone, I'm a bit distracted. Watch
and then the
trolls,
second hero shows up and you're like...
No. I kill trolls and I'm like, fuck, I have to be careful about about a bastion switch. And I'm like, no, wait a second. I'm not playing Protector, I'm playing against, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a dumb player, but there are also dumb players. Even in the top 1%, there are dumb players like me. So there definitely are dumb players that cannot tell the difference at lower league. So please make it the colors pop more. I don't know, like give them more distinct designs.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk because a lot of people complain about how cartoony Stormgate looks. And you can't really get away from it. Like if you're having like color popping and, you know, bolder outlines, things just do look cartoony.
I have it. I have the fix. Okay. Instead of what's it called? Instead of a troll, you get the Marine from Star Wars.
Slow Stormtrooper.
The Stormtrooper,
yeah.
Completely white, very recognizable. They also miss their shot half of the time.
Yeah, true.
That's
I think that's canon.
That's canon, yeah.
Well, we'll have to reach out to Disney and ask for approval to steal the copyright.
That they're gonna have to buy the Starland Studio. I give you this is what you hire me for this bangers idea. Like asking Disney for the copyright to... Is it from Disney? Wait,
Disney owns Star Wars now, yeah.
I thought it was LucasArts still.
The kind of sprinkles on my filling on my shit sandwich. I feel like there's a lot to do, and I'm not convinced this is a bad thing, which is why there's sprinkles, not lumps. Because there needs to be, especially in a game like Boss said earlier, imagine getting out macroed in a game with no macro. There is not no macro. That's a lie, a joke. But there needs to be expression for higher level players beyond, everyone's capability. If we're saying like you're kind of been talking about this 99 versus 1% split, there needs to be something that differentiates a 99% player from a 1% player. There needs to be something that a 1% player does regularly that the 99% of players cannot do. And this is in Zerospace where macro is de-emphasized, or Stormgate, for example, where building is easier and macro is easier for sure too, and chores are reduced. There still needs to be something where really high level players can excel. So we can talk about someone like Cyril and say that this guy never misses an inject. And that's, like you're saying, not the flashiest, coolest play, but it's something that very, very few people can do, is like reliably inject all the time really well. But this is what allows a player to go from top 2% to top 1% to top 0.1%, right? And these things need to exist in the game still. So when I'm playing Zerospace and feeling a little bit like I'm drowning, I'm not even convinced that is a bad thing. I think it's me being aware of how many things there are to do, trying to work out how to prioritize them. I'm not convinced it's objectively like positive.
It doesn't take that much to actually get it. For my personal experience, like I think maybe 10 games and you already start to getting like most of the how most of the things works. Like you start to get an eye of like most.
Yeah, and more of a rhythm.
Yeah, it's deceptively simple. Not gonna lie. Like there is
wait, you mean deceptively complicated, not deceptively simple?
No. It's deceptively complicated at the start, and then it becomes deceptively simple. It's like a reverse bell curve.
Yeah.
So complexity perception goes like this. At first, you're like, "Oh, this game is very complex." Then you start to figure out, and the game starts to look really simple. You're like, "Oh no, actually, it all comes out to build order." And then the moment you like get to the higher level, you start to realize how little things interact specifically, and how a lot of those matters way more than you first realize. So it becomes really complex again. So there is a reason, as I said before, I was explaining this in a ball shot. There is a reason why at one point someone was better than you was very hard to beat in Zerospace. They're like, if they had a superior understanding of the game, they were like little minute details, like how to like, for example, right? There is a whole mind game in Grell versus Grell. How many links do you send to the towers? You can send one.
Yeah, we talked about this.
You can send 2 pair. You can send 1 pair. You can send 2, but only to one side. You can send 2 and attack the middle. You can send none and attack the middle. And you have to consider this, like you have to make these split-second decisions, especially in the the Grell versus Grell is infamous.
And react to them.
Yeah, right. So you have to consider to balance, like to try to scout, like stuff like that's still underused, like flying seedlings to scout, zerglings at the sides to scout. How is my opponent scouting? How is my opponent expanding? What should I, as Grella, what should I be infusing? What should I be reinforcing with? Where do I want to place my buildings? Do I want them in front? Do I want to creep forward as Grell? Do I want my barracks to be in the back so they defend my base? Or do I want them to be in the front so they heal my units? A lot of, for example, Producer Pad is currently ranked 19 and doesn't take a game off anyone in the top 10. Even though the MMR difference is not that wide. Right, but it's always the case. Like the closer you get to the top, the more like distinct. Like even I that like when I'm ranked 4, I would really struggle to take a game of Lucifron, which is the top player right now.
Because and he's still like 150 MMR higher than
So stuff like this is very interesting. And as I said, I think even Boss, for example, like after a couple of games, like maybe playing like Lorimbo doesn't like as I said, well, you don't find the game that complicated anymore. So like, well, of course, you gave me a build, I just follow the build. I'm like, yes, but by playing the build more and more, you start to realize, actually, I can make this unit. Like, there's like little decisions that you improve upon. And then after a while, you're like, I gained a pretty decent understanding of the game, even if I was playing like always the same units, right? It's the same way I approach StarCraft. Really. I'm like, start with a Rocholin. Start with like lowest common denominator, something very simple. You start to like, oh yeah, maybe I can sprinkle in some Hydras. Maybe I need to be faster. I need to micro in this way. Like then you start to improve. That's how you approach complex game. You do for the dumbest strategy first, and then you scale up slowly. When you're like, okay, I want to learn like something more complex.
So
I want to understand this.
You don't go into it thinking I'm going to learn how to play Ultra Infesta micro. You're worrying about 1% of games. You should worry about the things that are relevant in the 99% of cases, for example.
And this is also a different experience because of you and Boss, because you're like, well, I'm Grandmaster in StarCraft, or I'm top player in Stormgate. Like, I want the meta build. Like, I want already to, like, your mind is already, can I qualify for top 16? Like, you are not the target audience, Art, and Boss isn't either, because Boss came into the game thinking, how realistic is that I can get money off this? That's not why you would play Stormgate usually, right? And you will be like, okay, I want to have a cool game to maybe play with friends, maybe for the campaign, maybe for the 2v2 faction, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah,
of course, if you play the game, your first thought is, I need to understand the game as well as possible to have the best chance of maximize.
And I need to do every action and optimize all of them perfectly. Yeah. This is not a thing that most people are worried about.
So at the start, like you play your first game, the first thing is, Lorimbo, which talent is the best? Well, pick one. Read them, whichever you like the most. Will be a normal thing. But I know that like we can skip this because Boss is already an experienced RTS player. So I'm like, yeah, that's one. Like I've already done the calculation. We have already tested. We played like 100 games of this shit. Like you can test it again if you want later on. And sometimes
and people will, right? You need to get an edge. And you need to. You'll play against people, and then you'll lose to that talent, and you're like, but this guy's playing a non-optimal talent. Somebody who's really good and has played a lot told me that this was better, and now this guy's using this thing, and it's and it beat me, so that must mean that that thing is better. You know, that's how you start to build your understanding, I guess.
Yeah,
Now
and
we
then you
need
try
to
it.
we need to do the nice part. We're running out of time. We need to do the nice part
I think
of the
this is
shit
the nice part.
sandwich. This is the nice part.
Yeah.
I genuinely had a decent amount of fun playing the game. I would definitely will play more. I think it visually is really impressive. I will say the stats and that sort of thing are really impressive. You know, at the end of every game, there's a score screen, and then like you're imagining it like a StarCraft score screen, and then it's like you like start to see matrix code, and it's like flashes a million different graphs.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you have
think
every possible thing. At the moment, I
yeah,
think
but
they're
a
just
lot of
dumping data on
information.
you so that you
Yeah.
can like
I,
but
I wish this is a nitpick. I wish they were like made a nicer graphic.
yeah, I
A
think that'd
lot
be
of
fine.
cool data, but it's like
A lot of it's
not
superfluous.
like
But what I
not
will
in the
say is,
prettiest font ever.
what I will say is, I just remembered Stormgate is going to try and sell you that data, whereas Starlance are like, yeah, have it. Here you go. Here's a million graphs. I don't know. You look at it, decide which one you like. Because most of the time you look at them, I'm like, it feels like I'm
Yeah.
trading stocks or something. But
Exactly.
I will say that it's
a
nice that
whole
it's there.
page of graphs. There's a whole page of every possible graph you can think of, and you're like, which ones do I even care about? I don't actually think that that's good, by the way. In the same, I think like they should like later on
They
they
could
should have
tone it
like
back for sure.
main graphs, and then you have like another
Tabs.
tab in which of the others. Like,
Yeah.
so
It's kind of like League, where it's like, here's how much damage you did, how much gold you did, gold per minute damage. Yeah, and then you can click for like the full breakdown of everything, but it's not like the default. But I will say I find that really interesting, really impressive. I will say the maps seem to me to be interesting, but not like broken in any particular way. And they have the technology to randomize maps. You know, I thought that's an impossible thing to achieve, but here we are.
Coastal Hotspot is broken for Prot.
Okay.
Every map is broken for Prot. I think Prot is just broken. I don't think it's a map issue. No, jokes aside. No, I actually like. I found some interesting. Like I like the maps with two naturals. Bro, they do something to my brain. I'm like, that's like I really like because this is a lot more. Like I like the maps because they're a mix between StarCraft and Age of Empires. So, like Age of Empires, just very open maps. There's like you don't have a main and a natural. Some maps in Zerospace do have like a main and a natural, like the standard. Like there's a ramp going down, and then you have stuff like Coastal Outpost, and the other one, which is I always forget the name of. 1 second, I'm gonna find it. 1 second. Swamp Fever. Is the other one I'm thinking of, which I'm like, actually, I can take two naturals, right? Or stuff like Mountain Peaks, in which you have like a natural that's in a bit of a weird spot. It's like, that's interesting compared to Starsend, where you're like, Starsend is the most, like, standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, bread and butter thing, right? And then you have like 2v2 maps, which are non-symmetrical. So one of the two players has to play like there's the map design has been quite interesting. Like I've not played a map that I'm like, this is like just bad. It's broken.
It's similar to Age in that the gas spawns randomly, right? Is it randomly within parameters?
No.
Okay.
Everything
it's the same spot, but it's on a timer.
Rich gas is random.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
The rich gases are random. There are like
areas. They're like set spots where it can be, and then it randomly chooses from those. Okay.
And it's always mirror, which is very important because it prevents the issue that Age of Empires has. But like, I spawned with the shittiest gold position in existence, and my opponent spawned with the best gold position in existence.
Or it's like he's playing a faction that doesn't require any gold, and I need a lot, and we both have bad gold spawns, but it affects him, but it affects me, but not him so bad.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing I would say is I think the heroes are interesting, and I think they will have really good broad appeal. I think what we've seen is a move away from RTS and a move towards MOBA, and this feeling of like doing cool moves with few units, with fewer chores, is the direction to take RTS in my opinion. I think some people will take umbrage with that, but I think that's my thoughts.
Okay, sorry, 1 second. Zane was asking me something. Yeah, so like this is what no, as I said, to close the shit sandwich, I definitely had troubles with Zerospace. If you watch my stream, I went for 6 hours straight about the fact that the new patch addresses some issue but doesn't go deep. There are definitely problems with the game. Do not get me wrong. Zerospace is by no means the perfect game.
Yeah, it's not ready for the release. Yeah.
But I will say, after that experience, I've changed my way of thinking. I've changed the playstyle. I've been down some new stuff. And now, for the first time in quite a long time, I'm genuinely enjoying playing RTS. Where I'm like, I play a game, maybe because I always win. So, Lorimbo, you always want to win. It's possible. Like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. But for the first time in a while, I'm like, wow. Like, this feels satisfying. Like, Link Bane Hydra was one of my favorite comp. And, like, scaling Lashers into, like, rivers feels so nice to play. It just feels nice. The units move nicely. They do what I want them to do. And, like, the strategy feels familiar. Like, this is like this reminds me of what I could play Link Bane Muta in StarCraft against Terra. It was, like, considered peak StarCraft enjoyment. Like, the peak of StarCraft was considered Link Bane Muta versus Bio, right? It's like, it's so cool. Stuff like that. Certain things remind me of. The game has still a lot of problems. I have to say it. I have to be things. I like the game, but I have to be honest. I've had a lot of criticism. This has make me mold, rage. Some things I had the feeling were not play tested, but I did enjoy it ultimately. Like that's what I can say about it. There's some bad, some good, but the direction seems to be good. The team seems to be like pretty receptive. I'm kind of excited for the campaign. We'll see how it goes.
Yesterday, I asked Zane for comment on the Zerospace podcast, and he said, "Hope it's not too cringe." I think we've done a good job. I think he won't find this too cringe.
He's afraid that I'm just gonna balance one.
Yeah, I know.
That's what because he thinks that like the stream was peak cringe, and the stream was peak cringe. I said many times that I do my worst on stream. I think like Lorimbo on stream is at his winest.
But that's true for like 99% of people. I'm pretty sure.
I've said this before, guys. Like when people ask me why I don't stream, look, I've had real jobs in the past. I've told. I know it's gonna sound like out of touch, but streaming for me really fucked my mental health. A normal job in certain ways are easier.
That's completely reasonable.
People like, oh no, like because this is just the Asante, like, where people are like, what do you mean? Of course, like mining coal, you're gonna come home and you're gonna be soul crashing. Yeah, of course, but like it's a different kind of soul crashing.
This annoys me though, because all these people that are talking about it as if they have one of these really hard jobs. It's like you probably, like 99% of people in the West, have an email job where you show up and you like do meetings, send some emails, look at Excel for a few hours, and then go home. I find that a little bit hypocritical.
No, but I also feel like
I think it must be really weird to like have a job where like half of it is dealing with like random parasocial people talking about you on Reddit for hours a day. Like that just must be really weird. Yeah.
No, but I guess I've said it's like I'm sorry, guys. I'm sure that all of the coal miners in the world are gonna hate me for this. Are gonna tell me, Lorim, well, no, because they're not gonna watch this video because they're coal miners. They have better stuff to do.
We love our coal mining fans. I'm a man of the people. I love our coal mining fans. Like and subscribe if you're a coal miner.
But for me, streaming has been very stressful. I think it brings out the worst in me. So this is why I don't stream that much. I much prefer like this chill talks. And in fact, if you want to talk to me, if you want to interact with me as a parasocial viewer, find me on Discords, and I'm much more amiable
Is
there.
Is this the birth of the AllThingsRealTime Discord? Should we make one?
Maybe in the future, not right now. I meant in just like, you're gonna, if you're in the Zerospace, in the Stormgate Discord, or in certain popular StarCraft Discord, I'm active in almost all of them. Somewhat. You can even DM me, worst case scenario. If your opinion is so important that you need me to know it, you can DM me. But be aware that if you DM me, don't expect me to be nice about it. Fuck off, dude. What the hell? Parasocial Andy. I've had some people do that, you know that. I've told you. Like I've received some weird DMs since I became somewhat well known.
And some weird YouTube comments as well.
We're not gonna name any names. I'm sure they're like all in good fun, but see. Okay.
So that's gonna wrap up our. This is our first Zerospace. This is our first Zerospace podcast, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, Stormgate is now closed for. Actually, it might only be like 2 weeks more, I think. Oh, they said it was going to be longer, so it might be.
No, end of April. They said.
Yeah.
They said end of April.
Yeah. So it might be 3 or 4 weeks before Stormgate is back. So stick around for Zerospace content. Check us out on Spotify. DM Lorimbo on Discord to tell him that you made it this far into the episode. Any final words, Lorimbo?
I want to sleep.
It's bedtime. And happy Easter Sunday, everybody.
It's not Easter Sunday anymore. It's midnight in Europe. So we are Easter Monday now. Do you know that we have a name for? Do you know? Okay, I have a question for you before we end up. Our viewers can tell us. Do you have a name in your country for the day after Easter?
Oh.
We call it Little Easter in Italy. Pasquetta.
Pasquetta. That's cute. We call it. Wait, it's Good Friday, Easter Sunday. Lilypad, help. Is there a name for Monday? I mean, we have the day off. Bank holiday Monday? Yeah, I mean, we have the day off. We call it Bank Holiday Monday. Like God intended, we call it Bank Holiday Monday.
Bye-bye, guys. See you next episode.
I love coal miners.